I got some mulch here. I can put a little mulch against the sides to hold the heat in, right, over the cold nights. Right, you can do that. Hey, it's Greg here with maritimegardening.com, and I'm out here in the last light of the day planting some Swiss chard. And today I'm going to plant this giant Ford hook, Swiss chard. Ford hook giant, I think is what it's called. So it's an old, popular variety. Big plant, good tasting, nice and green. It's sort of an impressive looking plant, but also just, reliable, constantly producing right into November sort of thing. How do I know it's time to plant Swiss chard? Well, for me, the best indicator is when you start seeing these in your garden. And this is the first dandelion in the garden here. I got some dandelion, actually a weed growing right here, but these are still in bud stage, right? And this is the plant, the location where this plant is growing is basically like south facing, good light, right up against a big log, sort of an ideal spot, right? So I know that in the best spots on my property, there's dandelions growing. And the spots that have a bit of shade or not in perfect sun, they're still like this. So it's a bit early, right? It's a bit early for planting, to me, Swiss chard. They're a tough plant and they can take a lot of cold, but when they're young and you're trying to get them to germinate and that sort of thing, they like a bit more heat than, like they can handle the frost and all that sort of stuff. But if you want them to start growing good and do well from germination, you want to plant them a little further on in the season, later than things like spinach, lettuce, arugula that are super tough, right? So for me, this is the very edge, the tippity tip of the edge at the beginning of the time when you can start planting these. But I'm going to do a little trick here. All right, so I just prepared a really small area, basically 3 feet by 3 feet. And I'm going to treat these almost like transplants. Swiss chard, really easy to move. Some plants hate being moved and it really upsets them, like spinach, for instance. But Swiss chard doesn't mind being moved too much. So I'm just going to plant a small area here. And as you can see off to the side, I got a bit of a dome, a little tiny, 2.5 foot by 2.5 foot sort of domey thing that I'm going to put over this. All right, so it'll just make it a little bit warmer in there, and a little bit more favorable for germination and early growth. This is a trick I use for a lot of plants. You can have big ones. You can also have relatively small ones like this. This is fine for anything that can be moved easily, right? So this doesn't work for carrots, for instance. For carrots, if you got an 4x8 garden bed, you better have a 4x8 cover, right? But for something that can be moved like this is fine. All right, so now I know roughly the area I'm dealing with here, how much real estate I have for my planting. I know where the edge of that box is, so I don't want to get too close to that edge, right? You want to have it back, a few inches from that. So I'm going to put a row here. I'm going to put a row about here. I'm going to plant them pretty close together, like an inch apart. It doesn't matter because they're all going to be plucked out of this and moved, right? So I got the rows about a handspan apart, right? And then I'm going to sow the seeds about an inch apart, right? So, or even tighter than that. It doesn't matter, right? And good planting depth for Swiss chards, maybe half an inch, give or take. Same thing as beets, right? Another good reason to do it this way is that it's just not overwhelming. I mean, basically, I'm going to have enough beets here to easily fill a 4 foot by 10 foot or 4 foot by 8 foot garden easily, right? There's going to be a lot of beets here to be plucked out and moved. But all I had to do tonight, I was doing other stuff in the garden. I was about to go in, and I just said, how long will that take? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? If I wasn't filming a video, it'd be pretty darn quick to do this, right? I overseed a little bit, doesn't matter. There we go. So I got a good seeding there. I got plenty left over just in case things go wrong. Okay. Now I got a little bit of finely screened soil. You don't have to You can just move the existing soil back, but I like to have some really good dark stuff that I just screen from. You know, certain beds in my garden have better soil than others, so I'll just take a little bit of the soil from those spots and use it for sowing like this. I just feel, I don't know if it's making any difference, but I mean, your confidence goes up. One of the problems people get into when they're trying to get things to germinate and they don't come up immediately, you start doubting, you know, your skills, your situation, the soil, the location. You start thinking all kinds of crazy, you know, things. Instead of just believing and waiting, just you know, sort of just hoping, right? So by doing it this way and patting it down so you got good contact, right? I've got high confidence that this is going to work out. You pat it down so that there's good contact between the soil and the seeds. Then you give the whole thing a really good watering. Don't go too crazy with the water. You know, that is to say, don't pour the water until it is pooling up. If you see it pooling, just take a little break. Let it settle out. Right? Okay, I think that's good. And we're actually pooling. I went a bit crazy there. All right, that's good. This box is a bit awkward to move, but not impossible. Okay, now, at this stage, I mean, if I want to, you know, I got some mulch here. I can put a little mulch against the sides to hold the heat in, right, over the cold nights. Right, you can do that. Not absolutely necessary, and it's not perfect, right? So if there is excess heat, it can bleed off. And you notice I have a bit of a dome here, right? Just a really rudimentary, I just bent some bamboo sticks, right? Sort of put a little, you know, gouged a little dent in each side and bent a bamboo stick, just enough to make a little point, right? That way the rain sheds off. I also think by having a dome, as opposed to it just being flat, there's better aerodynamics inside this little microclimate. Because there's a dome, you get a little air movement, turbulence, and that sort of stuff, right? Because the air can gather here. Maybe one spot's warmer than another. You know, there's, I don't want to get into physics or anything like that, but there's something to be said for the dome structure when it comes to air movement. Let's just put it that way, right? So having a little bit of a dome here, maybe I get a little bit better air movement than if it was flat. Okay, and I just find things work better if you can just create even a little dome like this. So I mean, I got the thing here, and this might be 3 inches higher, but this is really easy, really cheap, really simple to slap together. This one's made out of 2x6. That's total overkill. You know, 1x6 or 1x4 would be fine. I would use that 1x6 fencing. You know, it's not even an inch thick really. It's like 7/8 or 5/8. I mean, wood's getting so expensive right now. I made these, I don't know, 5-6 years ago when it was relatively inexpensive. Now the price of wood's gone insane, right? I got a number of beds in my garden I got to repair because they're rotting out, and I can't get over the price of wood. But anyway, don't want to get off topic. These Swiss chard are in. I'm not going to do anything here. Okay, I've watered this, and now I've sort of closed it all in. On a warm day, the water will evaporate, gather at the top, rain back down on it. I got other beds where I planted stuff a couple weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. Haven't watered them at all. There's been sunny days, there's been warm days. The stuff's growing, I haven't done a thing, right? This is a great little system for getting seeds germinated and going because it gets warmer than, you know, the air in here is warmer than the ambient air. This time of year, I'm not worried about this sort of system overheating. We just don't get enough heat. It's gonna be like 0 tonight. It was 0 last night, 0 Celsius. I'm not worried about, you know, it might get as warm as 14 degrees Celsius during the day, maybe, right? So I'm not too worried about it. But, you know, that's it. These are all little nuances you have to figure out for where you are. You try things, you experiment. Some seedlings and seeds can handle more heat than others. I've never had a problem with Swiss chard using this approach, where I am anyway. So anyway, I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching. Hey folks, guess what? I've started a newsletter at maritimegardening.substack.com. I'll be putting out one article a week, that's 52 articles a year. The articles expand on ideas that I mention on my videos and podcasts, and every article has a read aloud option, so you can just listen to me read it if you're busy doing something else. You can subscribe for $30 a year or try it for $5 a month and see what you think. It's a great way to help support everything I'm doing here. But hey, there's also free content too, so if you just want to read the free stuff, that's fine too. As always, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.